Welcome back to Les Schwab Tire Center's Outdoor GPS. Now it's real time, sponsored by the Mill Casino.
Welcome back, everyone. Cody Herman from Day One Outdoors, and today we're talking about Yakima bait plugs and different things that you can utilize when you're back trolling, diver and bait as well. Al, we're going to cover that comment for you.
You bet.
Good to see you, man.
Pleasure's always.
It's
nice
been
to be
way
back
too long
in the studio.
Yeah, man, it's been too long. Yeah, last time I think we talked about this a little bit earlier was probably during spring Chinook season when I saw you. Yep. Been doing anything fun? You just been working? What have you been doing?
Always fun.
Yeah,
always fun. You always got to go out there and play, especially this time of year. This is our time off.
Yeah.
For guides at least.
Sure.
So this is our time to go out, go play a little bit. I think between October 1st back to mid-April, I think I only had 3 or 4 days off.
Okay.
So this is my time to go out and go play, have a little bit of fun, do some hunting, do some fishing for my own. And but now it's time to start focusing in on steelhead. Yeah. Because they are already being caught.
They are.
And time to get back to work.
So as a professional guide, you've established yourself very, very well over the last decade of chasing steelhead around, in particular, of course, chasing salmon and other species. Drift boating,
you bet.
Back trolling plugs, back trolling diver and bait. There's no question that that is your niche. That's what you do. I spend time on the same creek that he spends some time on, and he catches as many or more than folks that are out there bobber dogging and doing everything else. I mean, there's a lot of options that you can do. And I really, to give a little bit of credit here, I get why you do it now. Yeah, I really do.
I do back trolling mainly for winter steelhead for 2 reasons. One, it's because that's how I caught my very first steelhead ever with jack glass. Okay. So there's a special place in my heart for back trolling, pulling plugs. Sure. It's just nostalgic. Sure. Second, it was out of necessity because the lower river and a lot of the other rivers have a lot of traffic. And this way I could get away from people and just run my program and not be interrupted by a bunch of other boats or other anglers. I get it. I could stay away from people. But most importantly, everyone's gone to bobbers, and I give the fish a different look.
A completely different
look. Give them a different look, a different feel. I'm catching a different fish. I'm targeting a different fish. I can have 3, 4, 5, 6 boats go through a hole. I can come in, back, clean up with plugs. I can pull 2 or 3 out of it. Yeah. So we're targeting different fish. So it's out of necessity for sure.
I've literally watched him in areas that are very, a lot of bank anglers will fish it and come right through when there's no bankies there, and all of a sudden he's got a fish on. I love it.
I'll sit at the top of a hole and wait for a little while, and then I'll talk to the bank angler and say, hey guys, do you mind if I make one quick swipe? And they've been fishing it for 2, 3, 4 hours and come through, we'll get 1 or 2 fish and we'll move on.
Yeah, and just keep on covering ground. Yep. And I get it. It's a peaceful way to go, and I know your clients love it because we've heard it here on the air. Your clients love being out there with you. If you're looking to get out and do some steelhead fishing, maybe you want to maybe for the first time, a drift boat option, because not a lot of guides actually do that anymore these days. I mean, there's plenty, no question. But Cody, we could not recommend higher. You got room?
You know why they like going with me? It's because in the boat we have the heater and we make food the whole time. I know you see me out there and you smell the croissants, the breakfast burritos, the cookies. So that's definitely part of it. Yeah, we catch fish, but it's the whole experience. For sure.
In his sled, or excuse me, in his drift boat, he's got an oven, so he's able to cook everything. Beautiful Pavati boat, by the way. You can't miss that thing. Okay, so we just had a caller that called up, Al from Malala. And he had said that he doesn't back troll diver and bait anymore because of wild fish. And hey, listen, we recommend it here all the time, that if you're going to diver and bait fish, don't do it in a river system that is, primarily wilds. My experience is similar to what Cody's is, but what would your response be to Al from Malala when you're talking about diver and bait?
That is my exact opinion as well. If you are in systems where there are a lot of wild fish, you definitely need to be mindful of that. Sure. I have gone completely 100% away from sand shrimp because I've noticed that steelhead will swallow sand shrimp.
Absolutely do.
However, in the last 6, 7, 8 years, I've been back trolling coon shrimp. I've had 1. Right. And it was in a lower river, and it was a recycled fish. Gotcha. So it was already hungry. It already spawned. It was trying to replenish its nutrients. Sure. So it swallowed it. And it was not a big deal. Right. But of the hundreds plus more fish that we've caught, running coon shrimp, I can't explain why, but they hit it just like a plug. Right. And you get them right on the tip or right in the corner because they come and they swipe at it. They're not actually trying to eat it. They're hitting it just as hard as any plug you could ever imagine. Right. And it's a great bite. It's really fun.
I would absolutely agree. My favorite bait to run behind a diver is sand shrimp. And I do it on my home river. And that home river is primarily hatchery fish when, things are, at least when they show up. If I do have something like that happen, it's usually a sand shrimp, and I run them straight. I got a hook through the head, and it's easier for them to do that. And that's one of the questions that I wanted to ask you today was when you're rigging coon shrimp, that's a question that I get a lot. I have 1 or 2 ways that I like to rig them. We've shown it here on the air. But there's different ways to rig them. How do you start? What's your setup for rigging those the way that you like it with your clients?
Sure. So I got 2 different ways to do it. Do we have time to go into it here?
Absolutely.
Okay,
and
cool.
we're going to keep it right here so that Kershaw Tech Cams can see
I'm going to try and do this as best I can. I should have pulled these off beforehand. So what do we got here? Where's my camera? Right there.
There you go.
So on this guy right here, kind of hard to tell with this watermelon, I have a wire. And that is a way to straighten out your coon shrimp. Every single coon shrimp rig has 2 hooks, size 2s. 2 size 2s, 2 finger apart, so it's really easy to remember, 2, 2, 2.
Gotcha. Oh,
size 2s, 2 fingers apart, size 2 hooks, 2 of them. And I run this wire right here. This one I would cut down, because what you're gonna do is just place the back end of this wire through the tail of the coon shrimp up to the base of the head. Put this top hook, and maybe we'll do it in the next segment. I'll pop one of these guys out.
Yeah, we've got plenty of time. So when you do that, what's your theory on straightening it out like that with that wire?
It's just a different presentation. It's a little bit easier to rig. So you just drop it in there, and I'll try and use my finger. So let's say this right here is the head of the coon shrimp. This is the tail. Your spin glow's up here. I place this top hook into the bait. Try and do it here. Yep. So I put it into the bait, just like that, just above the head. And then I let this back hook dangle, and that back hook will dangle right near the eyes. And then I take some stretchy thread and wrap it around the head and that top hook, so that way the head doesn't flare out.
So you've got 1 hook in it. It's
just 1 hook.
Your top hook.
And that wire, and the top hook, takes a stretchy thread, wrap it around it a few times to make sure that head doesn't flare out, because it's head downriver, and that current will pull it open.
Gotcha.
And so wrap that up, make sure it's nice and tight. That back hook will lay right at the head, at the eyeballs, so it's not hanging way back. And you usually get them on that back hook, just right in the beak or right in the corner.
My experience has been the same, and most of it, to be honest with everyone, when I'm using coon shrimp behind a diver, or maybe even not, is with sockeye. Okay, now sockeye will come up and do the same thing. I'm rigging it a little bit different. I do have that trailing hook. Dwayne England, who we all know, love Dwayne, showed me 100 years ago was to do the same thing, to run that stinger hook out the back so that the fish could come up behind it and grab a hold of it. So that is interesting.
So that's one way with the wire.
With the wire.
Yep.
The other way to do it. That's a straight shrimp.
Correct. And so when you get a jar of coon shrimp, they're going to come out of that jar shaped differently.
Curled.
And sometimes they're half bent, sometimes they're fully curled. So the other way that I'll do it, thank you for pulling that off there.
No worries.
The other way that I'll do it is, I'll go back to the other camera here. I'll try and use my fingers
right in here.
Cool, got it. So if you have a coon shrimp that's curled, let's say this is the curled shrimp right here, and they have to be perfectly curled, like tail touching the head.
Gotcha.
If they're opened up at all or slightly bent, they're just going to spin and make a bunch of commotion down there and eventually just rip off the hook.
Okay.
So it has to be fully curled on top of itself, tail touching the head. Then you're going to have that high spot right here. And all you do is you take your top hook, you can come in from the top, come in from the bottom, it doesn't matter. Just hit the highest point right there on top, just like that. I don't know if you guys see it. I need like a white background. Here we go. So highest spot, just like that. On that coon shrimp, you're going to push through all the way up and in. So the belly of the hook is right at that high point in the shrimp. And what that does is it puts it perfectly on that high point so that when the water goes past it, it's not going to make it spin or flip too much. In fact, it might even run straight.
Okay.
And that's perfect.
So you're not looking for any sort of movement in that bait?
Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Okay. Sometimes the fish care, sometimes they don't.
Sure.
You know, some days they want it perfectly straight, sometimes they want it flipping a little bit, sometimes they want it rolling like a cut plug.
Okay.
But most importantly, if you just put that top hook right at the high point on a fully curled coon shrimp, just one hook in it, it's a very delicate bait. So you got to burn through a lot of them because there's no stretchy thread.
Right. You
get sucker fish or other smaller fish, smolts come up and peck at it, it's going to rip it off. But it keeps that back hook right near the tail and the head on a fully curled shrimp.
Sure.
And that works perfect.
So you're just running one hook through it, no stretchy string, but it's got to be
curled one,
it's got to be a full curl when it comes out of that jar, not kind of opened up a little bit.
If they're opened up or straight, half curled, then that's when I'll use the wire rig and I'll cut off that little piece of tail, put the wire through it towards the head.
Right.
Stretchy thread on that top hook, let the back hook dangle.
And it always falls down, everyone, to you're going to burn baits. And you have to burn bait to
jar a day.
You just got to. When you're burning through those coon shrimp, that's why there's so many in those jars that you buy. It doesn't matter if they're millennials or other versions that are out there, or if you do your own. Some of them aren't going to be perfectly, shut like he's referring, but it gives you options, right? To 2 different ways that you can do it. And if they come apart, don't be scared. Just keep going through bait, burn bait, burn bait, burn bait, because you're not going to want to reuse it. You get it out there. it comes back in, maybe it's still fishing, yard it, and you're going to put a new bait on anyway.
I go through a jar bait a day, and there are a lot of times where I'll put a coon shrimp on and put it in the water and look at it. I don't like the way it looks, rip it off, next one.
Just start over.
Yeah, we work so hard. I mean, think about this. How much is your drift boat going to be? I have run a Pavati. Yeah. You know, the drift boat, whether it's Clackcraft, Willie, Pavati, they're expensive. 12, 15, 20 grand. Yeah. You spent the money for your shuttle, you spent the money for your fuel, you took a day off of work. Yeah. You're going to worry about a 5-cent bait?
If that, yeah.
Like, come on. Yeah. Just burn through it. Make sure that everything is perfect when you go through the hole, so that way there's no other reason other than the fish aren't there or they're not biting.
Yeah, and I love the fact when you mentioned that before, referring to the comment from our previous caller, Al, with those coon shrimp, that trailer hook, it reminds me a lot of the same concept as bead fishing, where there, for so many years, people were thinking, oh, God, you know, you're fishing a 2-inch, 3-inch gap between your bead and the hook. Oh, you're just going to hook them deep. I've caught hundreds and hundreds of steelhead on beads. I can count one where it may have gotten down there. It just does not work that way. And when they do come up behind that bait, it just puts that hook in a spot where it can get them just right.
And it's because they swipe at it. They hit it just like a plug. They come at it. They hit it from the side. They don't come up from behind and swallow. They literally just swipe at it. I don't know what it is. If it's going back to their feeding habits out in the ocean, whatever it is, they want to kill it.
And how fun is it for yourself, especially, because you're the one doing this?
Oh, it's for me.
Okay, you're doing this, and you watch that rod explode. I mean, just literally, it's gone. The rod tip touches the bottom first. What's the first thing you do? Is it a full pull, or what do you do when that rod folds over?
I sit back and enjoy it.
Okay, fair enough. I know. Listen, there's something about plugs and bait when you're chasing steelhead, any species, but it's very, very special when you're talking about winter steelhead. In a drift boat when it's cold, or a heated boat, whatever, like these mentioning. And that's what you can expect when you get out with Day One, and probably, arguably, the nicest drift boat you'll ever sit in. Okay, so when we come back from this break, I want to talk plugs.
Yep.
He brought in a couple of plugs, a couple of mag lips. These are 3.0s.
Yep.
Is that your #1 size?
Depends. We'll go over that.
Okay, good. Yep. I shouldn't be asking questions, but he brought in a couple that are just hammered. There's a reason for that. Everyone, we'll be back in just a couple of minutes.
Outdoor GPS is brought to you by Chevy Silverado and the impressive Turbo Max engine. Flex your muscle with the strongest, most advanced Silverado ever. Official truck of Outdoor GPS.